Oh yeah. So I went to call it an interview, I guess. Essentially, kind of like a job fair where there were, I'd say, about 15 different positions. I would say no, you know what, five different individual positions, but like about three for each. Case managers, program assistants, food, nutritionist, janitor. I mean, you name it, they had it. It's one of those county jobs. I tried to pick the jobs that didn't have the requirements of high education, high school diploma, a couple of years of maybe associates, experience, because experience I got boats load. So we get to the beginning, which is, what position did you apply for? I tell them, I applied for this position. This is the one that doesn't require a bachelor's. Well, unfortunately, we're not interviewing for that one today, so you'll have to come back. Leave me your resume, and then before she even finished, because she had been saying this speech to a few people, which is, we're not interviewing for that, even though, we had you sign up and register. It's kind of like, the fattening up the numbers to how many people came to their event, and then, relegating them to, no, we're not interviewing for that. So a lot of accounting, too. But that was, again, one of those they weren't interviewing. And then the food one, they weren't interviewing either. It seemed like a pretty cush job, basically working at the explanation seemed like a Meals on Wheels type of thing, where I would be at some center and I would be making sure that the food is delivered properly from wherever it comes from, Meals on Wheels and whatnot, getting it organized, serving it to elderly. It's like in an elderly old facility. It didn't require a bachelor's, so I figured, good experience, good, work ethic. You had to clean up. You had to make sure you maintained everything good. The inventory in the cupboard was good. You weren't missing any, like, materials or food or, ingredients, all that. So it seemed like an okay job, but they weren't interviewing for it. So when she's giving me the whole speech, we'll keep your resume and we'll let you know, I was like, hell no, dude, I'm here. So I explained my entire situation. I said, this is the experience that I have. I've done this type of work. These positions, mainly case manager, are one of the positions that I'd be interested in. But unfortunately, I don't have the experience. Like, I don't have a bachelor's. Like, all of them said bachelor's. And she's like, all of them? When she said all of them, I didn't even understand it till way later. But I was like, yeah, all the ones I looked at, they all said bachelor's. Technically speaking, the position I had, I needed a bachelor's for that position as well. But my manager, at the time when I was being interviewed, I guess she liked the way that I spoke. She saw that I had pretty good experience. Maybe she was desperate for employees. And this woman laughed when I said that. And I'm like, oh man, bro, these county jobs, dude, social work is by far one of the lowest paying, highest demand jobs out there. Because socially, bro, these people are flooded with work, man. There's no end to how many individuals in any county, state, city, you name it, always requesting help. Regardless of what it is, they're always requesting help. And the government has these things to help them, but for some reason they don't pay employees, man. Like, I'll give $10,000 just as a rough estimate, a rough example, just to make it as simple and easy as I can to you, based on my experience. They have $10,000. Out of the $10,000, $8,000 is set up for the program itself, which means we'll give $1,000 to 8 people. But I'm giving you a really rough example. Out of those $10,000, $2,000 are for employees. So in their mind, they're thinking each employee gets paid $1,000. So we have 2 employees, and those 2 employees have to process 8 other customers that will each get $1,000. See, the money always goes towards the client as opposed to the individual working the case, which makes sense, right? You want to help out more people. But the problem is, now you're overwhelming the 2 workers. Now, I said 8,000, so you think 8 people, you're thinking 4 people for each worker. That seems fine. Yeah, that's a good setup. Here's the problem. Each employee will get 1,000, and this little example that's now becoming more confusing, but each employee does get 1,000, but instead of 8 people getting 1,000, what if it was 8,000 people getting $100 each. And now you're talking about each employee doing 4,000 people. You know what I'm saying? Like, the amount of people that come in for help when it comes to social work is so freaking high compared to the amount of people that actually want to work in these jobs, because again, this is not a high paying job. Now, I'm kind of lucky here because, again, one of the biggest hurdles to jump over is the bachelor's, and the more degrees you have, I know there's the myth out there that says, degrees don't matter. Trust me, they don't matter in the Kanye West sense. They don't matter in the, yeah, you're becoming educated, now you can, move on to bigger and better things. But they do matter when it comes to the workforce, because these jobs, these career, I don't want to say career stops, these places that are not jobs, but they're more of a career, their requirements and their rules and guidelines always are dictated by degrees. If you're able to get a degree, you have a few things going for you. One, you're smart enough to actually understand and, pass schooling. But two, more importantly, in my opinion, is that you're in debt. Because whoever has a bachelor's, more likely than not, they owe money. So giving you a job helps two things. It helps us get an employee that's going to work for lower pay because, whatever. You're educated, which is a part of the thing. So it's three things, I guess. You're educated because, again, like I said before, you have the knowledge to learn and you were actually able to attain a degree. But the money that I'm giving you, I know as a government agency, because this is the social work that we do, as a government agency with social work, this money is now going to in turn be funneled back to the school that, guess what? It's also a government agency. Oh, it's a private school. Trust me, all schools are under the government umbrella. So you see how that works? It's like, it's almost like being in a club. It's like, oh yeah, I got a degree, I got debt. So, the money you pay me, most of it is going to go to the debt. And I'll get a little bit of it for, housing, food, COLA, cost of living allowance. That's fine. That's fine. But a lot of it is going to go to that debt. So it's a business. So getting a degree isn't that big of a thing. I would probably say get a cheap degree. Get the cheapest degree you could possibly get. Owe the smallest amount of debt that you could possibly get. And then when you get invited into this club where, oh, you got a degree, oh, you got debt, okay, we'll give you a job. Dude, you could actually say, yeah, oh yeah, man, I got debt. How much do you owe? 50,000, 100,000? No, I owe 5,000. No, but you don't got to say that. They just know that you got a degree and you have debt. So that's my understanding of how that works. I'm not an expert, but I got experience. So I tell her everything. I explain the whole situation, and she's like, oh, okay. The reason I said all of them is because we do have one place, and what they're requiring, and then the other girl, the first one that was interviewing me, stops her and says, I wanted to tell him about that position, but that one requires 2 years of experience. And they were looking at my resume, and I only have 1 year of experience as a case manager. And the woman looks at her and just shrugs her off like, no, that's fine. Okay, they put me into the other room. I start filling out an application. I do all my stuff. Boom. I pass the application part. I don't need fingerprints. I'm all good. I move on to the interview process, right? I'm sorry, I do the interview first. I have to fill out an application in order for them to have the application in front of them when they ask me some questions. And when I say they ask me some questions, bro, they ask me some questions. Like, I got into a room with 3 people: human resources, the program director for the center that was interviewing, where I was interviewing for that center, and for the center that I'm going to be working at, and the, I guess the manager, the one that actually runs the center themselves. Basically my 3 bosses, human resources, director, and manager, which is a lot better than DCF, where it was human resources director, manager, supervisor, and assistant supervisor. I still don't know how I had 5 bosses, dude. I don't understand how I had 5 bosses, and yet all the work came to me. I had to process 50 cases while the 5 bosses had to tell me that I had to process 50 cases. I to this day, I still don't understand that. But anyways, wow, man, 6 minutes left. What a great topic, dude. Today was one of those days, man. So I sit down, and they start asking me a plethora of questions, dude. Questions that I was not ready for. Man, questions that ranged from, this was the one that really stayed in my mind. You see a family that comes in with a child that looks like he might be a special needs child. You know that he's not receiving any of this special needs care. How do you handle this situation with the parent in order to offer them the child itself special needs? And I'm like, wow, that is a very tricky question. Let me think about that one for a second, because I have been answering other questions like, bro, left and right, like nothing, dude. But this question was tricky for two reasons. One, I knew what I really wanted to say, which is like, damn, you got a R. I can't say that. It's like you got a kid there. You got a kid there. You need some help. I got some pills. We got some stuff. Man, there were so many things that went through my mind, but I had to give him the politically correct answer, which is the answer you would give on a job, and I kind of wormed my way around it, where it was like I wouldn't direct anything towards the child itself, obviously. Like, I'm not gonna say, oh, your kid looks like this and I'm gonna do this or that. You can't judge a book by its cover. I mean, just because he looks like he might be a special needs child, it doesn't necessarily mean that he is a special needs child. Assumption is the worst thing you could do in this type of job, and in nowadays where culturally we're all so sensitive to any little criticism. And when I said that, like, two of them, because I was directing it to the human resources, each one of them took a turn asking me a question, and he asked that question. The other two actually were nodding their heads. I could see them, because I would look, every once in a while, glance at them, even though I'm answering him. Made eye contact with all three, made sure, to answer every question as politely as I could. And essentially, that was my answer. You can't just, basically assume that the kid needs it. You just, me, I worm my way around with the mom, with the dad. Hey, has this kid ever had these type of classes? Has this kid ever taken this type of medication? Has he, kind of like banter with the parent, and to see if the parent themselves can, maybe I can sneak in and figure out the answer without ever asking the question. Oh, very good, very good. And so on and so forth. And they ask all the questions. Okay, please sit outside while we make our decision. They come out. We've decided to move forward with you. We're going to go ahead and set you up for the fingerprints. So they put me in. Oh, this is the reason I wanted to do this video. I'm already at the end of the story. I forgot the main part. 3 minutes left. Hurry. They actually asked me, why was it that I did not continue working for they actually asked for the other job. It was similar to the Department of Children and Family, but I was working in high schools helping out refugees that came from Haiti and Cuba. And this was back when I lived in, oh man, I shouldn't say all these things. Yeah, I don't want to tell you guys where I live or my age or any of that stuff. I've done that on past YouTube channels and it doesn't work, man. It just puts me in a really bad place. Let's just say I lived in a magical place where there was a lot of Haitians and a lot of Cubans. You figure it out if you can understand where that place is. And I say lived because, well, whatever. What's in the past is in the past. I helped them get their high school diplomas, right? And referred parents that, were into the aspect of getting work and needed employment and whatnot and such and such and such, right? So they asked, why was it that you didn't, stay there? And I said, well, I'll be completely honest with you. The biggest problem with that job was the amount of employees compared to the amount of clients. It was just so overwhelming that we had, I believe in my case, the first month, no lie, I had like about 40 clients. My first month there. My second month, I hit 100 clients. And by my third month, which was my last month, I finished with 172 clients. I just don't understand. Had I stayed for a fourth month, I easily would have gone over 200 clients. And I just couldn't do it. I couldn't interview them. I couldn't follow them up. I couldn't do the entire process. So then another question they had, kind of like a follow-up to that, was, well, what would you say is the best method in order for you to process all your clients for a day, even though you're being overwhelmed with the amount of work that you have? And I said, very simply, and this is what I had told my previous manager, which is, when a new customer comes in, do the entire thing with that customer from beginning to end. Interview them, take all their documentation, process them, put them into the computer, and when they're good to go and it's complete, move on, get the next one. Blah, 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 interview them, process them, get it, and next one. They had a system where the first 4 days we would receive clients left and right, and then on the 5th day we would go somewhere and start processing the clients. And it doesn't work, man. It just doesn't work, because I didn't tell them this part because, I'll probably get in trouble. But that day, which is a Friday, when it was time to process all the cases, bro, that's the day we were just hanging out at the office, talking about sports, just enjoying ourselves. Like, we were taking it as a day off, and that always messed me up, man. Like, I couldn't do work Monday through Thursday, and then on Friday, when it was like hanging out with the friends and the family, kind of, because you're in the main office, it just was not worth it. So we'll see how this goes. I'm gonna end it with this. I tried my best. I did everything I need to do. I need to do so much follow-up stuff now, like at references and letters or recommendation, bro. It's a big process, but stay tuned and let's find out and hope that I can actually nail down this job, man. Take care.